This week we're going to be looking at research methods, and you may be wondering, why is she in the car? Well, not only am I a professor, but I'm also a researcher, and one of the things I'm working on right now is doing interviews with folks who consider themselves to be environmentalists, and so one of the things I have to do is travel to different sites to interview people so that it's at their convenience as opposed to mine. So you may be wondering, okay, why would I have to learn about research methods if I'm not a psychology major? And I completely understand where you're coming from with that question. So let me explain. Research is not usually discipline specific, and what I mean by that is even if you're not a psychology major, you're still going to encounter research methods in the discipline that you choose to go into. So if you choose to go into business, if you choose to go into political science, if you choose to go into nursing, you're still going to encounter research methods. Even as just a person who doesn't have a job and stays home and watches TV, we're going to encounter research methods because we're going to watch TV, we're going to look on the internet, we're going to maybe watch the news, and we're going to see these research studies, or we're going to see what we call artifacts of research studies. So people talking about research studies, newscasters talking about research studies, things like that. And so as a graduate of an Associate of Arts or Associate of Science program, it's important that you have what we call scientific literacy, which is the ability to critically evaluate scientific research and understand what you're supposed to be looking for, understand how to look at a research article, things like that. So even not as a major, you're going to be encountering research, and so I want you to understand what you're seeing. So this week we're going to be looking at some different research methods. So methods are how we go about gathering our data to either support or refute our hypothesis. So for example, right now, the research method that I'm using is face-to-face interviewing. And we can do surveys, we can do experiments, we can do case studies. There's lots of different research methods. And if you're a psychology major, you're going to learn about different research methods in different areas, such as in your child psych class or in your adolescent class or in your human sexuality class. And the reason for that is that different research areas typically use different types of research studies. So in social psych, we're less likely to use a longitudinal type study where we follow the same participants for multiple years, whereas in a child psych study or an adolescent study, we're more likely to do a longitudinal study. So in each class, you're going to encounter different types of research methods. So for the most part in social psychology, we do surveys, we do experiments, and we do naturalistic observation, which is pretty much where we go out and observe people's behaviors unobtrusively, meaning we don't interrupt the behavior, we don't let people know that we're watching them, so slightly creepy if you think about it. But what we're doing is gathering data about, how often do children of a certain age express aggressive behaviors, how often do they hit, how often do they kick while they're on the playground, things like that. So we could study that in a non-obtrusive way by simply, sitting on a bench and watching kids at play and counting the number of times that a certain child hits or behaves aggressively towards other children. So that's what you'll learn as a psychology major. Now, as a non-major, what I really want you to do is be able to listen to information about a research study and critically evaluate what you're hearing. So let me give you an example. When I was teaching at the Victoria College in Victoria, Texas, I was watching Fox News one night, and the newscaster said something to the effect of that there was a research study that recently came out that found that drinking green tea made people less likely to get AIDS. Now, hopefully, your brain is stopping and thinking, what? How does that work? Because that was my first response. My second response was, well, wait a second. If you're saying that X, drinking green tea, leads to Y, not getting AIDS, then you're talking about an experiment as opposed to a case study or a survey. Because an experiment is the only type of research study that we can talk about that indicates actual what we call causation, that A causes B. Surveys, we can say that those two variables are related, but we can't say that they cause each other. And so my first thought was, I want to see this study, because ethically, we can't make people drink green tea and then, inject them with HIV or AIDS virus and see what happens. So most likely it wasn't an experiment, so the language that they're using is incorrect. So I went and found the study. And it was a survey of health behaviors, and it was just lots and lots of information about, do you drink green tea? Do you exercise? Do you do this? Do you do that? Do you have HIV? Do you have AIDS? And what they found through using statistics was that certain variables were related, or what we call correlated. But a correlation doesn't mean that the variables cause each other. It simply means that they move together, or that they move separately. So if they move together, they both go up or they both go down at the same time, whereas if they move separately, then one goes up and the other goes down. So when I was watching this show, really what they should have said was that, a survey found that people who drink green tea were less likely to have HIV or AIDS. That would have been acceptable in terms of research terminology, not that drinking green tea makes you less likely to get AIDS. So as someone who isn't going to be a psychology major, I want you to be able to stop and look at that and say, wait, what? That doesn't make any sense in terms of the language that's being used. I want you to be able to go back and look or find that article and look at it and understand at least parts of it. And so there's going to be a couple of assignments this semester where you're going to have to look at a research article, and I'll give you instructions on what to look at and how to understand the certain pieces of it. But scientific literacy is what we're going for with non-psychology majors. Whereas psychology majors, really we want to be well-versed in the different research methods that are available to us. So I look forward to hearing your questions about research methods and about how social psychologists in particular go about doing research. I'm interested to see what you guys have to say about ethics and deception in social psychological research. So as you continue your study this week, make sure that you're looking at both your chapter in your textbook and also at the written lecture that I've put in the module section for Unit 2. I look forward to answering any questions. Thanks.